Hello, hello. I am going to do my makeup to go out for dinner. And I had a request to show how I use these brushes that I've picked out for the week. Okay, more like a fortnight because I just washed them on Friday. They're dry and I'm going to use them again for another week because I feel like this week went by really quickly. I won't be using all of the brushes. I'll probably be only using half to a third of them. So you won't see all of them in use, but I will use most of them and I will introduce them as well. So I've already prepped my skin with a light toner and my lips with a balm. I'm going to wipe it off later. Other than that, I have eyelid tape on, so that's why my eyes look different because one of them was severely double lidded and the other one was a half double lid. So I'm gonna go in with a sunscreen base because it's still quite early and it's quite sunny. So I'm going to use this color correcting makeup base here. The level of unpreparedness I have for this video. I'm about as prepared as a nude. There we go. Okay. So I haven't been doing full coverage foundation for a while. Mostly I use a tinted base such as this. And then, so this is a tinted sunscreen base. That it's a sunscreen primer specifically. I know, you're not supposed to rely on your makeup for SPF, but this is mostly for like, say I'm driving and I just need a little bit of sun protection. If I was out in full sun, I'd be using a different base or sunscreen under my base. Okay. A little bit more. And this is the Face Shop's Air Cotton Makeup Base. It has SPF 30. So SPF, I think, protects against UVB. But then most Asian sunscreens, Face Shop being an Asian company, has a UVA rating, and then this is 2 pluses. And then this stuff takes a while to work in. And of course I get my eyebrows, so I'm going to have to clean up my eyebrows later. Getting a nice face massage in while I'm at it. This is probably more rough and more pressure and more tugging than you're supposed to do, but whatever. There's a Chinese thing. I was like, you have to be able to chew cool. So if my skin can't tolerate it, it's too fragile for life. Okay, so that's my base on. Feels pretty even now. Looks pretty even in the mirror. Looks crazy in the camera because of course it does. Like the cast isn't okay, I've never seen this on camera. The cast isn't quite that strong, but the blurring effect also isn't that strong either in real life. Okay, I'm going to get a towel for my fingers so I don't put my sunscreen fingers on everything. Excuse my funny seat cushion noise. It's like I use a piano stool as my chair because I don't like having a back, and every time I sit down, it's like a whoopee cushion. Okay, normally I use the stretch concealer, and I pretty much just slap this all over my face, almost like you would a foundation a lot of the times because it spreads really so extremely well. I'm kind of looking at my other little products here. I'm wondering if I want to use something different today. So, and I'm wondering if this Dior Backstage foundation makes me break out because I think I used this a couple weeks ago and my face just like broke out in little zits all over the place. So I'm kind of suspicious of this guy now. I'm kind of sad because the formula is so great, but if it's going to make me break out all over the place in ways I normally don't, then I'm kind of not happy with it. So I think I'll use this Bobbi Brown concealer just for a little bit of brightening. Let's see this is Cool Sand. Gonna take this directly onto here. So what I do a lot of nowadays is just sort of selective concealing. So I know the areas where I tend to have more discoloration, and I tend to just apply stuff there and then blend it out. So this is the Trish McAvoy 55 Deluxe blender, right? Yes, 55 Deluxe blender. And it's kind of got this classic paddle shape, but it has a nice fat profile with almost a flat top. But the corners are just rounded enough to give it kind of like that Beauty Blender sponge profile, where it'll just blend it as you go along. And I suppose that's why it's called the blender. I'm just using this to spread it around and then put down a light layer of concealment and see where else I want to put more coverage on later. Because my skin kind of changes from day to day. So right now I can see there's a red spot here. I'm going to want to put more stuff over. And then the nice thing about this is it fits into like the crevices here. So say if I was using cream products, I could take it down here, through here, highlight, sculpting. It's a really nice precision brush. And then, so something like the stretch concealer is not quite opaque enough to cover up this spot. So I'm going to take that Bobbi Brown concealer again. It's nighttime. Or that's what I'm telling myself. The sun doesn't set until 8:30. And dinner is at 5. I don't know which makeup artist I saw this from, but it was a not revelation, but it was a aha, that makes sense moment where they were talking about when applying concealer or applying foundation, if you want a all over layer, but the sort of traditional old method from the last decade or two has been you start in the sensitive face and you blend outwards because there's the most discoloration on the center of the face and the outside needs less. Their approach was apply it most heavily on the outer parts, the perimeter, and then blend inward because the skin out here is thicker and it can handle more makeup before it starts looking makeup-y and having that textured makeup look. And so I've been doing it that way, which is why I applied at the jaw first and then blend it in. And I've really been liking how it looks. However, I still do need to concentrate product on the center first because that is a lot of where the discoloration occurs. However, I don't apply the product all the way down to here and take it out because I do leave a lot of that more natural looking flush because my cheeks are naturally kind of pinkish red, I do leave that. So then that also results in me applying less blush. So that's what I'm doing here. That's why I applied concealer here, here, and here. I'm kind of leaving this area of my face untouched because it's kind of already darker, and that way I don't need to contour. So that's a product less that I need to use. I'm just blending everything else I can see. Kind of taking it, and then on camera I can see, or on camera you can see how it's kind of light here. So this is where my highlight would be, and then this is the part where I didn't really touch with foundation. So that's kind of reddish. Then here's my jaw, and then I didn't do anything to underneath. So the natural shadow there is already cutting it. So I'm going to apply a little bit more here because I do want to push that blush up. And as for the discoloration here, I already applied some here. So the blush on this side is already in the place where I want it to be. I have a little spot there to take care of. And then I'm going to take this, push it up towards the center. What is this stuff about moderation? Close. Hello, no name. Finishing off there. So of course I'm taking my time with this little tiny brush today. Normally I take this brush instead. This is sort of a medium, yeah, I'd call it medium-sized foundation brush. So this is the Sonia G Jumbo Base. It has this profile angle, which is really nice. So then I can either get a nice big surface out of it, or if I wanted to, I can do a little surface here, and I've got like this edge here. So it has all these nice angles to it that allow me to either do things quickly, like if I really need a big, fast blend here, or I can sort of flip it on its tip and then take my time kind of using it here like this, here, kind of go around the brow. And of course, the whole round buffing blending doesn't work quite as well with a shape like this, but if you wanted to do that, I'd just take a round foundation brush to do that with anyways. But I rarely do the whole round blend buff blending nowadays. Let's see. Now I'll pull that later. And then so this is another concealer brush I use. You can see the trend. I usually do like a base that blurs and kind of color corrects a little bit, and then I take little concealer brushes. So this is yet another one. This is for, say, this is the Refer 35. And so this fits in little areas like here, usually around the nose, this color here. It's less precise for carving out than the Trish McAvoy because it's a round dome. But this one is just great for like if I wanted to use my finger to pat stuff out, but because product will stick to my finger and get removed because of the oils on it, this is better for just sort of like an airbrush. And then so I'll take this in little areas, and then of course you can use it for highlight. I wouldn't use this for sculpting. There's just something about it where it just doesn't work for me to do that. For sculpting, I do like paddles generally instead of a round ferrule. So those are my base brushes I have picked out. Oh, I realized why I was going to get up now. I'm going to get my powder. So base brushes over here. I'm trying to center it. And then powder cheek. You can see I don't really use that many powder or cheek or face brushes for powder because I do tend to use a lot of creams, Like the one that's readily in front of me right now is this Hourglass one, and I have a couple more in pots. I have the Can Make cheek and lip creams. I don't ever use those for lips, but I've run through a surprising number of them, and I have a huge tub of empties that I'm going to review. I'm kind of looking at it. It's a big, daunting project. I don't know when I'll get to it, but usually I find that I really like blending out cream cheek products with my fingers, or I'll take one of these brushes. I'll either use my base brush, or I'll use something like this, and then apply my cheek product to my skin, and then take the brush to blend it out. So I might as well do it right now. The downside to this being, of course, that you have to refresh the brush. So you can either do that with what I call a dry cleaning with powder, or you can use a makeup brush refresh wipe. So so it looks like I'm dedicating this brush, the Jumbo Base, this week to blush. I know I just said that I don't really apply as much blush because I leave the center of my face unfoundationed or unconcealered. But if I want stronger color, I'll use a stronger blush. This one matches my skin tone pretty well. It's similar to what it looks like when I've been in the sun for a while. So if they ask what I've been doing all day, it's like, oh, I've been outside in the garden tending to my potatoes and my leeks. No, I've been inside at the computer, reading, writing, more reading of stuff, more writing of stuff. I have to admit, I'm behind on my documentation. And then let's show you the tip in use. I'm going to apply. The blush color is Devoted. It's the Vanish stick. Put it aside here. I'm gonna get rid of you. I just decided I'm getting rid of this. Someone's gonna get it. And I'm going to apply a little bit of cream highlighter. It's not as hot today. It's 82 degrees outside. I'm not sure what that is in Celsius. Sorry, people. Okay, so I'm using the tip here. I'm just doing that. And I'm not really worried about my highlight and blush color getting muddied together because a good dimensional blush is a sheeny blush anyways. So this will be my dedicated blush and highlight for the week. Normally, I just slap it on with my fingers and call it a day. If I was going to be using powder blush, I'd be using the Sonia G Face 2. It's a small to medium round, and it's just really good. Fits right here. I can control the area, and then if I smush it, I get more out of it, more surface area out of it, and then blend, blend, blend. So I'm not going to be using bronzer today. If I was using a color that was really, really different, like I have a couple other makeup bases that I use, and some of them like do require me to go in with a bronzer to kind of make it match my neck, but that's not the case today. So I won't be using this brush, but this is the J or B531 by Hakuhodo. I have no idea what they're calling the letter in front of it now. I'm pretty sure it's B531. Of course. Got a nice big sweep. If I turn it on its side, I can do a more controlled sweep. One of my favorites. At one time I had 3 of them. Now I only have 1 of them. Because who needs that many of the same brush? This is the... Oh no. I just blanked on it. This is a Kolinsky and Saikoho, vintage Saikoho. It starts with a B. Bookmundo? Something like that. Someone's gonna tell me. And I like how it fits perfectly into this little well for the powder here. This is the Trip-In Smooth powder in the color Light by somebody want to tell me how to pronounce this? So Uoma is what I'm going to go with. This powder is super light, and I like using this brush in a stippling pattern. I'm actually really surprised that I have the pure Kolinsky version of this brush too, and I actually far prefer this Goat and Kolinsky version. Normally I'm a bristle purist, but that's more out of laziness. The bristle purity allows me to quickly decide how to use, take care of, and wash a brush. With mixed bristles, I kind of have to think about it a little bit more. But the thing is, with the pure Kolinsky one, I'm just randomly stippling this all over until I feel like my skin's no longer tacky. The thing is, with the pure Kolinsky one, Kolinsky has a great ability to hold onto product, and I feel like it holds onto it a little bit too well. And then that relegates that brush to pretty much a pure base foundation type brush for me. I don't use that for powder, even though it has the ability to. Plus, that brush doesn't splay out as far, and it doesn't have such a nice puff feel. It feels nice, but it doesn't feel like this, and I wouldn't use it for powdering my face, say like I am now. And then grab a little bit more. Okay, I actually find I really like this well configuration because instead of doing it, gathering the product here and then tapping it off or redistributing the product on the back of my hand, I can just grab and redistribute it by tapping it in the well. It's one of those little things I never thought about, but it's nice. The downside, of course, is that it takes up a lot more space. It has a rather large real estate footprint, but I think it's worth it. Unless I'm traveling, then I take something else. Okay. Gonna go there. And that's powder base done. So now I'm going to move on to eyes. I might apply a little bit of color down my neck later. So right now my neck does match my face, but my shoulders and my hands, arms are a little bit more tan. So I might fix that later. But first I'm going to do eyes. So this is the first time I've used this particular eyelid tape. I don't know how well it's going to take to makeup and eyeshadow, so we shall see together. It feels kind of papery. I'm just using this towel to wipe off any possible residue that might be remaining on my lids from other stuff applied earlier. I'm gonna actually kind of fix my brows right now. I'm going to take this little spoolie. This is a spoolie you can find at a makeup counter department anywhere. I think this particular one is from Estee Lauder. I've been using it for years. I just like the density and the stiffness of this. Oh, actually, I'll apply brow pomade with this. I apply it directly with spoolie. It sounds kind of insane, but it actually works really well. So I'm taking a little watercolor brush that's been filled with Bioderma, and I'm taking any product off my brows. Any product that may have been pushed into them off my brows. Give it a little wipe, remove that. I'm gonna brush them. And then inside it's the classic Bioderma in the pink bottle because I've tried other micellar waters, but a makeup doesn't apply over the other ones as well. There's always some sort of slip or slide. But the original Bioderma, I've tried the blue one too. It's not as good. The pink one, once it dries, I can just apply makeup over it like it's regular skin. So I'm gonna grab the brow pomade. So I think I'll do my brows first. Can you tell I'm stalling? I'm kind of nervous about doing the eyeshadow over the eyelid tape. Okay, so I have a little sample of the Anastasia brow pomades here, the Dip brow pomades. I'm going to use this color. I'm pretty sure it's deep black or whatever. I'm just like scraping a little bit off onto the tip of the spoolie. I'm going to basically use this like a pencil. Load it up. Put it aside. And then, because, okay, I thought about it. It's like normally when you have a double-sided pencil, you apply the product, you take the spoolie, you kind of mess with your brows, you apply the product, and you take the spoolie in again to reshape the brow. And I thought, hey, let's try 2 in 1. So as I'm pulling the product through, the spoolie is also shaping it. There we go. Do you want to put a little bit here? Bring my brows center a little bit more. Okay. Gonna grab a little bit more, go on the other side. And while the spoolie has the most product on it, I'm doing the tails first because they require the most product. And then once it kind of runs out, then I do the center where I need less. So doing my brows also isn't an everyday thing. Normally I just kind of run the Bioderma through them to remove any product that's lightening them, and then I just shape them with a spoolie. But because it's the weekend, and then the other thought process behind using a spoolie to apply was normally you try to draw the individual hairs in. Well, with a spoolie like this, each bristle is pretty much an individual hair itself. So when it has product on it, it kind of draws it on like a hair. So that was my reasoning with using this. Take this up a little bit more. It's pretty much out of product by this point, and I'm just shaping it. Or shaping the brows. Put that there. I could feel a little bit of tackiness coming back into my skin. Oh, almost forgot. This is my waterproofing spray. Because I don't want it to slide right off the moment I walk outside. All right, it's time to stop stalling. Eyeshadow time. Let's see how this works. All right, so I'm going to do the usual and apply a base shadow first. I'm going to be using this sort of large medium eyeshadow brush. This is the Shu Uemura 12 Kolinsky Sable Mix. Kind of doesn't exactly have a point tip, but it's a kind of a tapered to a dome-ish point. Yes, Bunchindo, thank you. And I'm going to apply this to, or I'm going to take this and apply it in here. Kind of like a light brown shimmery shade. So if it looks terrible, I can just blend it out into oblivion and no one will be any wiser. I'm seeing a couple blemishes kind of bleed through now that I'm going to go back in with concealer and cover later. Normally I don't do quite this detailed. I kind of just make it look more even than when I wake up and I call it fine. That's actually holding pretty well. There's a little bit of darker discoloration where the tape is. It's not bad. Oh yes, so as you saw, I use the flat and then I use the edge to both apply and blend makeup. And of course I can turn it on this edge too. So I have a large, a medium, and a small surface. There's that. And then I could use the same brush to apply an intensifier, but I'm going to devote this to base, which I usually do. If I was traveling, then yes, I'd use pretty much this one brush plus another for most of the look. But I'm going to use this one instead. This is the Surat medium brush. I'm unsure if it's Kolinsky or Sable. I think it might be Kolinsky. And I'm going to put it into this little purpley brown color here. And now I'm going to apply this directly over the tape and see how that goes. Not bad. I feel like whenever I pop on camera, there's something I've never used before, and I go, you're going to find out with me. And because of that tip, I can get really close to the lash line, and then I kind of do it almost at a slant like this if I want to do an outer corner shade. I don't quite completely turn it on its flat. I don't completely do it flat on my eye like this. I kind of cant it at an angle, and then that gets the edge of the brush here nicely lined up. And I kind of push blend. I'm going to just lick it out. So the other base brush I'd be using, so say if I was using a not warm brown, so this is a warm brown. I've already used the Shu Uerma 12, so that's my dedicated warm base brush for the week. Say if I was using another base of a different undertone, I'd be using another brush for it so the colors don't get muddied up. This is a Shu Uerma 10 DF. It looks a lot like the Hakuhodo something because Shu Uerma was OEM'd by Hakuhodo, so nice doe foot. You have that big surface area to apply base, and then that tip where you can use it to push into the crease and intensify as well. But I'm not using a cool color today, so this will be saved for later in the week. And then likewise, so this was my intensifier brush with the warm. I'm going to probably dedicate this one to being my intensifier cool for the week. This is a GSN 09. And I think this past week I was using this brush with this brush. So this week I'm going to mix it up a little bit and use different brushes for detail, base, intensification. And then since we're at it, this is the Koyudo Cherry Birch in small. And then this is the Sonia G Mini Booster. This is a general blender. This is the Sonia G Lotus Worker. And I had 3 or 4 of these at one point, the Worker model head of brush. And then this is the Sonia G. Oh no, this is not Sonia. Yes, this is Sonia G. This is what the not fundamental. This is the Canadian Squirrel. I forget what the series for this is called, but it's a little tiny brush here. And I'll go over all the brushes again at the end. And then this is the M28 by a Russian brand, Lena M something. I can't read cursive. I think I'll use this. I'm going to grab a slightly darker color and go through and line my eyes. So I think I'll use a pencil liner and then cover it with powder. We'll be back shortly. Before I do that, I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it into a shiny shadow. This is the Canadian Squirrel one. It was a limited release. Let's see. Which shadow do I want to use? None of you. Okay, I'm going to grab another one. I like the look of this one here, so I'm going to apply that. Oh, that was a mistake. I went against the tape, so now it's kind of pushed product in. So I'm going to correct it on the next eye and go in the direction of the tape. This way, instead of pushing it up and underneath the tape. So, learning curve. Gonna try to fix this. Push it back down. So directionality matters when you're applying makeup with eyelid tape on, as we've learned. So I'm going to save this palette for this color later. And I'm going to apply first tight liner and then eyeliner. Might as well keep this palette going. I ran down to my last pencil or two of this, and I freaked out, went online, found a bunch more, bought them all. So now I have my tight liner for at least the next couple years still. No companies make jumbo pencils anymore. There's only NYX, and theirs is kind of trash when it comes to staying on the waterline. Okay. There's my tight liner applied. Ooh, I'm proud of myself. The cap rolled off the table and I caught it. Yes. Gotta celebrate the small victories. Do I want to do a wing or do I want to just trace my eye? Decisions. I think I'll just trace my eye. So there's a little bit of a gap between the bottom of the tape and my lash line, so I'm going to squeeze the liner in under there. And then overlap onto the tape a little bit and see how it stays. So it's not going onto the tape terribly well. Oh well. It's going on, but it's not very opaque. How do you feel about that delineation? And this also isn't a super creamy liner, which might be contributing to the lack of pigmentation, but I'm afraid that if it was a creamy liner, it would just transfer all over the place. Which is why I'm going to set it with a powder. Anyways. This is a less get ready with me and more musing of how is this going to react? Philosophical, not philosophical. Theory session? Okay. The shine actually shows up better on the tape. Okay, interesting. Put that away. I'm not going to do my bottom lash line. I think I'm actually going to take this mid-tone shade instead. It's almost like a cherry red. And this has a really nice fine blade on it. It's not super stiff either. The bristles move around in the ferrule because it's not densely packed. I'm going to take it beyond the confines of the eyeliner, up to mid-lid. And hopefully that will look like just another eye color on my lid. So right now the tape is completely covered with eyeshadow. I'm going to put just a little bit on the corner and corner. If this was being used with a more natural color, it would look like the shadow being cast by the lower lashes. And then what I'm doing with this brush could also be done with the Sonia G brush because both of them have that sort of thin point tip. So I guess I've picked my makeup for the week. Everything I'm using, I'm putting aside. I'm just going to keep using that throughout the rest of the week in sort of different combinations. So I guess this week it's going to be pinky gold. Last week it was more purpley with a little bit of teal in it. Sweat mustache. Normally I sit on my mascara to warm it up. It's summer, I don't think I need to do that. It's so strange. One week my chocolate bars were normal, and then the next week it got hot enough that they're kind of flimsy, and when I went to crack them along the lines, it just kind of went meh and fell apart at the seam instead of cracking. So the summer solstice was what, last week? And I feel like summer just started, and the calendar went, nope, year's already more than half over, and the longest day of the year has already passed. I'm like, what? Summer just started. Because before that, I was still wearing jackets and stuff. All right, I think that's my makeup done. I'm gonna cover that spot, cover a couple of these spots, and then we'll call it done and go through all of the brushes again. Come here, concealer. Actually, you know what? I'm going to be using this brush as my spot concealer blender for the week. So again, this is a eye brush. This is the mini booster. I'm going to be using it the way someone might use, say, a Q-tip. Because it kind of like is just a big fluffy Q-tip. And I'm kind of spiraling it out. So I'm just tapping to get it mostly distributed, and then I'm just tapping in a spiral outward to blend. Wow, this makeup sunscreen base actually makes my skin look fantastic on camera. There's, from what I can see, no texture on my skin. Up close in person, yeah, there's still a bunch of bumps and then divots in the cheeks. I'm just taking what's left on the brush and blending around my nose. I'm trying to decide if I want to do a lip color. I think that's good. I'll just leave it as it is. Maybe do another layer of lip balm later. Clean it up. Or do I want to do a red? Maybe an orangey red. I haven't used this one in a while because I haven't been tan in a while, but let's do it. So this is a Givenchy Carmen Escarpin. Or, see, it's a Tatcha blue based. No, that's too blue. Do I want to do a straight up neon pink? Nah. Okay. I'll go a few. Oh, wow. Did I destash all of my warmer red lipsticks? Or finish them? I can't tell. That's nude. That's red. That's deep red. No, that's too plummy. I have a little lipstick palette of more colors somewhere up there, but I don't want to pull it out right now. Okay. I think I'll use a golden toned gloss over a more blue toned. Oh, this is not exactly blue toned. It's more neutral. Okay, so we'll go with this. This is a Tatcha red. It's their silk something. And then I've been very careful to keep that point so I can use it like a lip liner. Oh yes, and something like this brush here, being made of black sable, could be used as a lip liner brush as well. I just realized. I am going to clean up the edges with a lip pencil. I'm not so much applying product with the pencil as I am sort of using the pencil tip to push lipstick where I want it. So I'm using the pencil like a brush. It's a pencil brush, except for an actual pencil brush. Like say this one would fuzz out the edge and I don't want that. So I'm not using a pencil brush as a pencil brush. I'm using a pencil as a brush. Chew on that. I have a little blemish here that's kind of pushing it up, so I need to push my lip line outwards to hide the 3D-ness of that blemish. Which means I need to match the other side now. And I think that makes my makeup done for this run. I'm going to grab a lip brush to apply the gloss on because I really don't like applying gloss straight from the applicator. I just had it in front of me. Here it is. So I'm using a Estee Lauder lip brush. This is number 35. It has a nice square tip. You've probably seen it a ton of times being used on both lips and eyes. For those of you wondering how I use this on eyes, I take a cream shadow, I smear it on, I take the tip, I smear and blend. So this is one of the few times I'm actually using it as a lip brush, actually. Actually, I kind of use it 50-50 as an eye brush versus lip brush. I think these sort of flat chisel-shaped brushes are brushes that don't get enough love, but they're also not as common in brush lines. Can't really make them out of goat. You have to make them out of synthetic or weasel, sable. Got 20 more minutes. I'm applying most of the gloss to the bottom lip first because my top one does have more 3D-ness to it. So I want the gloss mostly on the bottom. I'm using the tip to kind of shape the lip a little bit. And then transfer some to the top. Okay. We shall call that done, and we shall go through all of the brushes. Pull that off. This is a waterproofing spray, so I can kind of blot and touch up my face later without worrying things are going to come right off. This is the Blue Marble Sealer. And something about this, because it's a film former, is that, of course, it's going to form a film over the nozzle. So I'll take something, I'll wipe off that nozzle, and I'll waste the spray to kind of clear it, and then I'll spray my face. Otherwise, you end up with fat droplets randomly all over your face instead of a fine, even mist. Cover my clothes. I'm blasting it more than normal because we are going to be outside for just a little bit. Normally I would only hit just the kind of the center of my face, but I do want to. So I was aiming it under and then 1, 2, 3. Normally I just kind of go and call it done, but I do want this makeup to stay. Okay, while that's drying, I'm going to organize my desk a little bit. Okay, that's good. Alrighties, let's go through all the brushes. Starting with the base brushes here. So I use the Trish McAvoy 55 Deluxe Blender to apply concealer as my base after my full face base. So I use it to apply concealer here, looking it upwards, kind of carved out this area, blended it, blended it, blended it, and then that was sort of my foundation layer. This one would be used similarly. This is the Refer 35. It'd be used to apply and blend concealer around these areas and just lightly buff it out and make it a nice even layer. To get my skin more even, I covered little dots, and this was my spot concealer blending brush. This is the Sonia G Mini Booster. It's meant to be an eye blending brush, but I was instead used to cover little dots and then blend it out. This would normally be a base brush. This is the Sonia G Jumbo Base. And you would use it like so, blending it out, or using the tip around smaller areas like around the eye. I used it as a blush brush to blend out the cream blush on my cheeks, and I used the tip to blend out highlighter. I could have done highlighter down my nose as well, but I did not do that. So these are my 4 cream brushes. For my powder product brushes, I only used 1 powder product today on my face, to clarify. But these are it for the week. So this is my dedicated powder brush. This is the Bunshindo Kolinsky and Goat's vintage goat hair mix. Round brush. It's kind of like the old stippling brush. It literally is dual fiber. I use it to apply powder everywhere, kind of get a smooth base, and set my cream makeup. If I had a different base color that didn't quite match my neck as well, I would use a large brush like this to apply bronzer to color correct. This is the Hakuhodo J531, B531, either or. Nice big surface and like a medium large surface here if I say wanted to apply a big just wash of color to my cheeks. I consider this one a classic, which probably puts into the B series. This is the Sonia G Face 2. If I were to use a blush, powder blush, I'd be using this brush this week. I used a cream blush today. If I wanted to go ham and do a powder blush on top of the cream blush, I'd also be using this. Apply and blend. And I tend to kind of stick to the same color for blush throughout the week just to keep things simple. So hence why I only have 1 blush brush picked out for the week. I do tend to use creams more, and with cream, like if I was using cream blushes of drastically different colors, I do clean this brush pretty much every time between use. So most of the color would get removed and I wouldn't be worried about it being muddied or being contaminated color-wise. And then for my eyeshadow, I have 2 base brushes. This is the Shu Uemura 12 Kolinsky Sable. It's a filbert brush. So I have a nice big surface on here. I have a medium surface here, and I have this point tip for a small surface. If I was much more limited, I would have a microfiber cloth and I just wipe it off between colors and apply my base, midtone, and highlight and intensifier with this. But because I don't have to do that because I have all these other brushes, this is my dedicated base brush for warm colors for the week. And if I was using a different color base, I'd be using this doe foot. I have a nice big surface here to just lay down a base color and a nice wash. And also this intensifier here if I wanted to concentrate more color. This is a Shu Uemura 10DF. And I'm assuming that stands for doe foot. For my mid-tone brush, I use this. This is the Surratt Medium. Another sort of chisel point, or another point here, and it kind of has this almost chiseled shape, which makes it nice for sticking into the corner. And it kind of just carves out that outer corner for me if I dip this into the powder this way and then just go. Kolinsky or Sable, either or, it's pretty soft and it holds color really well. This is the GSN 09. And again, you've got a nice medium surface here, turn it on here, and it comes to a nice point. Or you could use just the flat of this on the side here to get a thick line. And you can use this here to get little points of color on the lash line on the inner corner. If I needed to be limited brush-wise, that's another good one. Here's a mid-tone. Here's a mid-tone type brush I did not use today. This is the Sonia G Worker. So I could use this to apply and blend a wash of color, or I could just use this to be my dedicated edge blender. I'll figure out how I use this later during the week. This past week, I was using it to apply just a wash of color with a dual chrome and just blend it out. And then I slapped the highlight color on top with this brush. This is another brush I did not use today, and then it's being kept in reserve for later. This is a Koyudo small cherry birch Mizume brush. And then so this one would be used for intensification here, intensification out there, putting down highlight here, not both, one or the other. Or just putting a mid-tone color down on the lid, because I do like to just put color beneath my visible crease. And sometimes I just use two colors, like one here and then a highlight color, and that's my eyeshadow for the day. I don't necessarily put down a base. And that brings me to detail brushes. This is the Sonia G from the Sonia G Squirrel Trio. This is one of the Canadian squirrel brushes. Tiny little tip, tiny little point, and you can use it to pretty much fake a lash line and also put down highlight in the inner corner like I did with this brush today earlier. I put it down and then blended it out. And this was my actual lash line intensification. So I used it to layer shadow on top of my pencil liner to set it. And I also used it down here to make the lower lash line darker. And of course, a lip brush. This one I used to take gloss out of the tube and I applied it over my lipstick. This is the Estee Lauder 35 and makes a good eye brush as well for lining and for putting cream shadow on. At one point, my daily shadow was the Urban Decay Primer Potion in Sin. So just grab the primer potion and just spread it all over with this brush and then put one or two other colors over it. And then my spoolie for doing my brows, today I grabbed some brow pomade with it and I used it to draw little brow hairs on and reshape my brows to the way I wanted it to. But mostly, on most days, I just put some water on it, and the water in Southern California is really hard. So once it dries, it kind of holds the hair in place. Like if I had used like a really weak brow setting gel. So that's how I normally do my brows. I just take water, run it through them, and it not only does it wipe away foundation and powder, but it shapes the brows. Today, because I used a heavier base, this one which had to be really rubbed in, a lot of it got into my eyebrow hairs. So then I used Bioderma first to remove most of the color, and then I used this to do my brows. So that is my brush selection for this fortnight. And I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll be back soon. Bye. And I'm ending just in time. Yay, good job. I'm patting myself on the back for my time management. Bye. Hi, Eric. Bye, Eric.